What's up? I'm popping in with just a little quick video. Make sure that I don't look crazy when it's skewed when it turns the picture around. But I'm in a really treacherous place right now where I lived for a long time, and it's not as treacherous as you would think when you walk by, and that's why it's so treacherous. It's like when you're being shown an apartment, and it looks simple enough and plain enough. But if you knew half the story of that place, you'd run for your life. Not that it would actually mean you any danger, but just the story is so distasteful. If you could appreciate the story there. And what I wanted to say is that like a lot of people would say like I'm from this block or that block, but I'm actually from no block. And that's why it's so treacherous, because the block is not frequented by anyone dangerous that around there that lives there, no less myself, which is why any manner of hell will come through at any time of day or morning or night. But all I meant to say is that I made another video about perhaps what we know of as wind is more so polarity, and that would kind of account for the behavior and what we see in wind. Where how is it so that wind is so we're taught that wind is invisible particles, yet the wind is doing very sophisticated things at all altitudes with no fulcrum, with no point of leverage that we can perceive, and is yet invisible. Where if something is, all things that we know of exist on a grade. So if wind is of completely imperceptible particles, we should at least perceive some of those particles to a degree. The more thick, dense, or you would call that maybe gross, superficial, blunt, coarse degree of those fine particles, where obviously we wouldn't see the invisible particles, but in wind we see none of that. But it's interesting how wind behaves, and you can see it's constantly behaving. But I would say that if you were to appreciate wind simply in terms of polarity, deeply connected to both polarity and heat dynamics, as is water largely. Maybe you could even say that wind and water are different grades of the same manifestation. But I'm getting off way past what chemistry I can actually speak to. But I meant is that you can really kind of appreciate the dynamics of wind if you were to appreciate it simply in terms of polarity, positive and negative, but yet negative and positive have preconceived connotations and ascriptions of value, as though positive amounts to positive things that are positive and negative amounts to negative things that are negative. But we know that more so, whatever you intend, you get the exact opposite of that, inverse, reciprocal, and opposite for most things, if not all things. And so positive and negative might be the same in that sense. And then those might be neutral and arbitrary terms, positive and negative, because they are actually more so positivity has more so consequence within negativity, and I would say maybe negativity has more so consequence within positivity. But yet deeper than that would just be to say attraction and repulsion, which both attraction is a form of repulsion and repulsion is a form of attraction. And we could maybe say positive and negative are the same. But you don't think about like how much blowing trees do. So a lot of trees they're constantly swaying, and I've said in other videos that something had completely upright, the most straight yet also unforgiving posture, it could not stand to the wind. But I also say that maybe the wind could not stand to the wind if it wasn't for for trees. So if you appreciate, now if you've known some bad people, you know a bad enough person, you walk around and there's the wind does a certain thing when certain people walk around. If we're being literary, and then maybe if someone gets in a hot enough mood, if someone gets in a hot enough mood, maybe the sky will start turning. I was doing a bus run for a company about at the end of the year 2023, and I've said in other videos that there's not always an actual word for certain types of relationships. And I got that from or certain types of experiences, phenomena. There's actually not a word for it, an agreed upon word for it, but a lot of people have experienced it, according to the author Nicholas Taleb. And I've said that in African culture, like for myself, a man who has sincere respect, if not fear, because fear and respect are maybe degrees of the same thing. If a man doesn't have simple respect, the great stuff like the gestures, the gesticulations, I think that means like bowing down, No, I think gesticulations might be symbols, and then genuflection is like bowing down, writing bodes, writing, revering, worshiping. That's not so what I understand as real respect. I understand respect as just simple respect. And then the highest degree of that would be accepting a person. But in African culture, my experience being an African child with an African father who had African friends when I was young, the pull of a man who is a friend of your father, a friend can be argued to be closer than a brother. My brother would about scout me over his friend, and his friend would about scout me over my brother, and I wouldn't deign to scalp anyone because I'm nonviolent. But that's just to show you that they say blood is thicker than water, but friendship is thicker than blood, I think. And so, in the culture where I come, I've said that a lot of European culture, or a lot of Western culture, it is informed by feudalism fundamentally because of the overarching and overbearing preponderant influence of the church, and then also the social and economic and educational rigors and dynamics and institutions that are substantiated and derived from dynamics within the church, and also informed by the teachings of the church in the sense of in the values of the church, to make the society incredibly feudal to the very day. Even the term landlord is that there cannot perhaps be a more feudal description or title than landlord in itself. Land being the property and the means to sustain our existence, and Lord having a complete overarching and unchecked scope of agency, is what those two things are saying. So that's very feudal. And we exist that way within feudalism. Yet I believe we're just simply in digitalism. So digitalism may be the modern form of feudalism. But what I meant to say is that in African culture, they have way deeper and in some sense more profound understandings of kinship, both in oral history and understanding social ties, but also experiencing dynamics. And my father has said that in our culture, in one of our cultures, my father's of dual heritage, as I'm actually maybe of at least three or four heritages. My father being of two African heritages and my mother being of two European heritages. So that made me quad 4 heritages at least. And so, but they understand that your uncles from your mother's side have a unique influence on you as a man, as a child, and as an adult. Yeah, and that's true of because my uncles have been a self-styled perpetual scholar, a non-traditional student, both formally and informally, and my other uncle is a bohemian poet, free thinker, pizza driver, and a school bus driver. And I think I've been a lot of those things, and also itinerant vagabond that keeps himself together and is inspirational and cool. That's a lot of who I am on a lot of levels, is who my maternal uncles are. But these men of my father's friends were very influential. So all I meant to say is that I had a couple of students on my bus in late 23, and the younger two, they were the last stop. So I'd have this girl of maybe about third or fourth grade, and then her brother of about second or third grade. I'd have them with me for about 5 minutes, just the two of them on the way to the last stop, where their father would meet them and speak with me at the bus and show me real respect. I haven't got a lot of respect as a bus driver from parents nor community members, staff at schools, parents, and staff at companies. I haven't got a lot of respect, but this man was one of the people who respected me, and I had a pull with him. I could feel my connection with him as a man, and also someone who serves his family. But I think that some of his children could feel that from me, and I didn't give them favor, and I also didn't over discipline them. I tried to met equity with all the students and approach them the same behaviors, both strong conduct and poor conduct, and reinforcing the strong conduct, and then addressing the poor conduct with reason, and also oversight from schools, parents, and myself. And you need all those together to have effective discipline, but also leadership. But all I meant to say is, I was driving them home at the end of 23, and the girl starts saying, "I do not want winter. I 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 do not want winter." And you can see if I keep going like that, it started to sound crazy because it's like a mantra. And that's how it sounded to me as a driver. I almost wanted to interrupt her, but it was kind of cool too. So after saying that, we near about didn't have a damn winter for 23 to 24, as strange as that would sound. Make of that what you will, make of that what you won't. But we yet are, and I've said that our voice is maybe the most fundamental aspect of polarity, and then all we experience and yet perceive is within polarity. All of chemistry can be derived to romance, and romance can be derived to chemistry, and romance can be derived to polarity and bonds within polarity. So I meant to say is that the wind is very dynamic. The things we think and say and do go out into the atmosphere and create all kinds of wind dynamics. And I think that these trees around us more so ground the static in the air, which is another word for the wind. And without these trees and the give and pull that they give to the wind conditions on the earth would be nearly insurmountable and life would not be possible. So I think that these trees are a grounding agent, and that the wind can be kinetic, similar to electricity, if not a form of electricity. And these constant endless nodes of trees are more so grounding units in grounding that wind in the static of our deeds and misdeeds. The pull of that, the influence of that down to the earth to become grounded and become life once again and vital. That's all I'm saying with this one. Peace.